Chinese is really too bad. So unfortunately, I have to do my presentation in English. I hope actually everyone don't mind. So I'm Vivien Khoo. Instead of actually being auto technology, security, and compliance expert, which is going through decentralization, I come from a very centralized world. Most of my career in banking in Goldman for nearly 2 decades, and after that, I was at BitMax, one of the derivatives exchange, as the interim CEO and COO, and now I'm doing more government advocacy and also board advisory type of mandate. So let me just dive right in terms of my very short presentation that I want to share with all of you. So first of all, I think we're all here because we care a lot about security and compliance. I think Tai Zong, actually in the opening, have highlighted the importance of risk management and cybersecurity. So I want to spend a few minutes, not that, this chart doesn't mean anything. If you think that I'll tell you what the price of Bitcoin is like, in 5 days or when it's going to be the next high, this is not it. But I want to put some context in why knowing where the market is relevant for risk management. So this is a chart prepared by Delphi Digital. They are a deep dive research for crypto, and based on technical analysis, last quarter was about 9 months from where the high is, and if you believe in fundamentals and technical analysis, another 15 months from now, which goes probably towards the end of Q4 2024, will be when we see the next cycle again. So just going back to what I said earlier, that I come from banking, and this is a very traditional, very old-fashioned risk management chart. But I think when we're in a bull market, nobody think about risk management, because all you think about is, why am I not actually making 5 more dollars or 5 more coins? Why am I trading not more coins? Why do I care about risk? Because I can make it back. But after FTX, after all the tobacco, and then all the recent, including JPEGs, people started looking at this again. So this goes beyond just a bank. If you run a centralized exchange, any trading platform, these are all the risks that you need to care about. Credit risk, market risk, security risk, reputation risk. So this is just some context of what I want to share in terms of what people are thinking about now. So as I said, I spent a lot of time in compliance. And why is that relevant in terms of what these two charts is? I want to talk a bit about surveillance, how surveillance is done. When in a bank, people actually don't realize how much surveillance there is. In my previous life, I have to be involved in a lot of termination, like firing people, because people break rules, unfortunately. So on the left is a very traditional sort of pictorial chart that people see. When you walk in a building, when you go into a bank, you have a pass card. So immediately, you're registered what time you actually get into the building. And then, you do a bunch of things. You talk to your friends. You might do some personal trading. So people don't realize actually anything from email to access in the building, everything is being surveilled. So it's the slightly old-fashioned way of how surveillance is done. I remember when I told people that I was do compliance, they always said, so are you the person who review all my emails? Are you the one who listens to all my tapes? Is that how, what you do all day? Like, why can't you find something better to do? So this is how traditional, and then fast forward, I think, there's some news now, actually Deutsche Bank, they are using AI, the development of technology, they're trying to predict based on when they listen to conversation, why actually some certain traders may be doing bad things, and then they trace what they do. So again, put some perspective of how technology is relevant in compliance. So AI as a replacement or complement, I think these few slides, I just put again as perspective. So AI actually from a compliance context has most relevant on AML program. Not a lot of people think a lot about this, about what it does to AML, but if you have been in even in a centralized exchange or any platform, then AML is a big thing because it historically, things like transaction monitoring, risk assessment is all different factors that you have to put together in an AML program. So I talk about this extensively, both in my previous, like in a bank with regional regulators, because we used to do these things called supervisory colleges. There are like easily 50, 60 regulators every year that we sort of host, Federal Reserve, SFC, MAS. So that's a big thing that they look at. And that's obviously very relevant to Web3 of what we do now. The first thing when I started working at the exchange, the crypto exchange I did, the first thing was, okay, do they have an AML program? Like, do they do KYC? I know this is completely against the philosophy of decentralization. It should be anonymous. It should be, actually on the web. Everything is supposed to be transparent. But much of what you see, particularly just in Hong Kong now, there are two different pockets. I mean, the banks themselves are also trying to go digital. So you see all the big banks, Goldman, JP Morgan, Standard Chartered, Nomura, they all have a digital asset arm. And because they are regulated, because they're listed, so they all need to put in a program that is compliant with what the regulators are looking for. And there's a lot of artificial intelligence now that is being used to put together the program. This is just one chart just to show, actually transaction surveillance now, what AI can do, because I think most of you definitely know more, about technology and data sort of consolidation than me, but basically using all the data from clients, from what the trades are all about, you can predict trends. So I think this is very useful in terms of doing transaction surveillance, that you pull together all the data, you probably have some sort of prediction mechanism, then you can make it more effective when compliance to surveillance is. So these two charts really, it's, out of all the risks that we need to look at, it's not just, centralized risk. So it's infrastructure, data analytics, these are all the different components, all the different kind of companies that, you, as somebody who does compliance like I do, I have to think about what risks are on different things. So, for example, if I want to deal yield instrument, does the country allow me to do yielding, staking, so that it's just like very relatively complex in terms of how you have to think about, what compliance is about in Web3. And then this also, it's, I'm not going to highlight like specific vendors of how they do blockchain analytics, but, most of us use chain analysis, elliptic, and whatnot to try to safeguard risk from a compliance perspective on money laundering and then also on transaction monitoring. But I think the point I'm trying to make is everything is still developing and evolving, and many firms actually use multiple vendors. They don't use one, because one is it's impossible to actually to mitigate all the risks, because some vendors actually do cross-chain better. One do if it was a simple on-chain better. So this is just again, I think it's just a simple chart to look at all the different components that what blockchain analytics tool that you will need, if depending on where your business is and then what segment it touches. So Hong Kong is a fintech hub. I'm sure actually later on, I think a lot of you will talk a bit about this. So before a few days ago, I think there's still a lot of talk about Hong Kong moving forward as wanting to be a global crypto hub. I mean, the government hasn't said anything yet about that changes, but this, I thought, it's telling in terms of, so Hong Kong MA, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, they are the regulators that regulate all the banks. So they put out a fintech adoption roadmap, which is very extensive. They basically started working 2 years ago, building all the different components, green tech, insure tech, and then Web3 obviously one of them. So they wanted crypto and digital assets to reach mass adoption. So they have different components like RegTech knowledge, different digital hub, but they emphasize on they're just using DLT and AI in terms of technology. So I know most of you actually are way beyond, these two basic concepts, but for them, like you guys are like the PhD, so they are like more like kindergarten or high school. So they need to get up to speed about how these technology can help with mass adoption. So they have actually decided on like a series of education even before this, but I think in light of JPEGs, that would probably get accelerated. And also the three component, I think on the top is still like relevant in terms of how they want to build things into like a digital hub. Path forward. So again, my presentation was prepared probably before JPEGs. So I want to maybe talk a little bit about my own perspective working with the government and regulators. So now I think for the first time, it's all in the news, that the SFC is disclosing all the applicants now actually who are applying for digital assets licenses. I know most people said, well, it doesn't really mean a lot, they're just applying. But it helped to mitigate, and it also helped to get rid of some of the hype about how, 90, 100, 150 companies actually are coming to Hong Kong. I mean, I'm sure they are. They're expressing interest. But realistically, how many companies the SFC is really looking at? And also for someone like me who went through the 360 pages of consultation, realize and understand how complicated it is to become an exchange. But putting that aside, I think, talking to, for example, Fina right now, I think there are a lot of companies who are doing other businesses. So asset management, for example, a lot of interest still, getting Titan 9 uplift, doing more funds business. Personally, because of some of the work I do, I see a lot of inflow from US and then some from Switzerland. There's a, MOU signed with Switzerland about sort of promoting, I think, the virtual asset world, mainland China, a lot of interest as well, actually coming to Hong Kong. So I feel that there will be more licensed strategic partnership going forward. So, HashKey did one with Sabre Bank. So one virtual asset, one traditional bank. And then there's one Somerly and, Coina. And that's one just got announced this morning that I think most are trying to facilitate securitized tokens listing, because real world assets is what everybody talks about, but actually not a lot of people realize what the use cases are and how they are done. I mean, for places like Thailand, it might be more broadly adopted because they actually have real estate tokens that are listed on Thai SEC. So I think there needs to be more and more of these partnership and product that comes out. I think for people to understand how you can leverage the different licenses, how things work. So I think that would be all for the positive. The VATP license SFC come out, they definitely realized that only take care of a very small subset of companies, by the fact that they've only licensed 2 so far. I think there are more, maybe about 3, 4 more coming, but that only deals with a very centralized type platform and listing of tokens. The criteria is very stringent, so there will only be so much coins that can be listed. And also, if I was a retail, I don't know if I'll go, maybe other retail think differently, but I'm not sure I'll necessarily go on HashKey or OSL to trade my coin. There are too many different options. So, they're great that the license, of course, in a time like this, you want to have someone who's responsible license to trade through, but most of the retail who are trading, the younger guys, I don't know, if being licensed means a lot to them. Less coin to trade, less leverage, cannot do staking. So I think those are some of the things that actually, Hong Kong and other places need to develop and need to figure out how to continue pushing more products. Because the regulator system, as I said, the traditional one that I am in now, for things to reach mass adoption, we're looking at things like, is BlackRock going to approve ETFs? Are there more layman type products that I think laymen like us can trade, that we can easily open a wallet? How do we not get hacked? How can we store a coin? So all that needs to be a bit more well-educated and better protected, I think, before anything can really go through mass adoption.
那我们都需要更好的教育。那不幸的是
I think, thanks. So I'll just leave a few words without rambling anymore. I think I want to leave you guys with one thought, as in the best way to predict the future is to create it. So I think we're all here because we care about, what Hong Kong is doing, how the Web3 ecosystem is building and developing, and so I hope, like all of you, can leverage your expertise, with what you have to help us, to help the Web3, alliance to build a very safe and secure place for us all to trade. Okay.
Vivien 的分享。
Thank you very much for sharing. We have simultaneous interpretation services. Please scan the QR code to access it.